single day.
Strange. I'm joined by John Crump of AmmoLand News, and this is another breaking news with AmmoLand. John, thanks for being here, sir.
Yeah, no problem, Hank. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. First, I want to, on behalf of myself and Lola, I want to thank everyone for all their condolences. My mom passed last week, and I really appreciate everyone's support. We got lots of outpouring of love and support from everyone, and we really appreciate that. It's been kind of like a rough schedule with us here getting things out, and that's probably going to continue for a little while longer. But we'll be back. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about some Florida news, because there's lots of shenanigans, John, going on in Florida. So this particular one, the Florida AG says there's no proof or evidence needed to prohibit a firearms purchase. So,
yeah, it's really insane, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So just in case people don't know what we're talking about here, do you want to fill them in, John, on exactly what the article is? I'll try to. This article, I saw it in the Gun Writer. I'll throw it up while we're talking about it here.
Yeah, basically what is going on is that there was an active duty sailor stationed in Florida who attempted to buy a handgun last year. And his application or his background check came back as denied. It said that he was institutionalized in New York, but it wasn't really him.
Right, it was just someone with that same name, which we've seen that it happens a lot, right? The names are common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he tried to get it overturned. It didn't work, and the AG responded to Florida Carry,
Mm-hmm.
and they complained, saying that, we don't have to have proof or evidence that someone is not eligible to own a firearm to deny them the right to buy a firearm.
So in other words, this guy got held up when he went to buy it because something came back on the NICS check, a hit from maybe New York or something like that. Someone did the same. Yeah, it happens a lot. So he contested it, but nothing happened. So somehow it falls in the lap of the AG. The Florida AG, Ashley Moody, who's a Republican, for whatever that means, right?
Anti-gun Republican.
Yes. She says that they don't see anything either. They don't see anything that disqualifies this guy from having guns. But instead of acting on that or doing a background check and saying, no, these are two separate people, this guy should be able to arm himself, and releasing it, they say they don't have to have any evidence. They could just willy-nilly pick anyone and go, yeah, we don't care, you can't have this.
Yeah, it seems like a violation of the due process clause of the Constitution.
Yeah.
To me.
I absolutely believe that. It definitely is a violation on him for his Second Amendment rights, right? If he has no access to that and he is not a felon, and then why do we have government, John? Why do we have these people in the government?
To hold us down.
Okay. I mean, I think we either, if they don't serve any purpose, we don't need to have them, right? I personally believe in less government. I'm sure you do.
Absolutely. I'm a libertarian, so of course.
Yes, absolutely. I think we both go along those lines. So if you have an attorney general, this is a case where she needs to step in and say this person who is a law-abiding citizen should have their rights, their access to the Second Amendment, but effectively he's blocked, right?
Yes, he is blocked, and he's serving the country to defend freedom.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That sounds kind of cliche, but that's what he's doing.
It's true. He's putting his life on the line.
Yeah, and he's not getting the justice and the freedom that he's defending.
Yes, absolutely. So what can we do about this? What can we do about things like this? I know that there was another story that you and I were talking about that actually involves Ashley Moody. I think it's tragic that we have Republicans here in the state of Florida that obviously don't believe in the Constitution, definitely don't believe in the Second Amendment. What can we do when we get into situations like this? How can folks actually, get some result from this?
Okay, there's a couple of different things. First, by putting pressure on Ashley Moody, blowing the story up, sharing it, write your own story about it, put it on another website. I mean, I don't care. I'm not in this for the clicks, So if you want to take the story and write it yourself, go right ahead. I will even share it for you. Another thing that we can do is primary her out of her seat.
Mm-hmm.
So in the
Okay.
Republican primary,
Mm-hmm.
have someone run against her and vote for that person.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Because the Democrat, we can't. If we vote for a Democrat,
we know what
we're
we're going
gonna
to get out of that. Yeah. Yes, I
yeah.
see what you're saying. Like, we have to deal with this in the primary, because what happens is when we get to general election, we're either getting a Democrat, or if we have a rhino, we're getting a Democrat, one way or the other. So at the primary stage is where we need to get someone in on the Republican side that's actually a believer in the Constitution and supports the Second Amendment, and definitely will right wrongs like this, which is what I think the job of the Attorney General is, where maybe like Ashley Moody believes her role is to just get ready to run for higher office, which is this is a problem. This is why we're trying to talk about these things, and I think John is saying, hey, we're happy to share this information and have other people come out and give their own opinion on it and share the stories and get the message out there, because we want people to know why we're losing our access to the Second Amendment.
Yeah, even if you're not going to write a story or whatever, give the AG a call and say, "Hey, why is this going on?"
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Yes. Folks need to do this. I think if you think about this, the Attorney General is a politician. She ran for this post. She got elected because Republicans voted for her in the state of Florida, and other people. I mean, ultimately in a general election, regardless of what party affiliation you have, you can vote, and you may have voted even if you're on the other side because you believe in the Second Amendment. That's why she's there. She's a politician. She has to answer to us. All of these guys have social media. They have offices. They have ways that you can reach out respectfully and speak to them and say, what's going on here? Why do you not care about this sailor that's serving his country? Why do you not care about his Second Amendment rights when he's here? Why can he not defend himself and his family?
Well, it's not only the Second Amendment rights; it's his Fourth Amendment rights as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, folks, we should reach out here. I think John and I, we've had other issues going on in Florida. We're not Florida centric, We've talked about things that are happening really around the country, but
Seems like Florida's a hotspot.
yeah, it seems like Florida is a hotspot right now, and I think the biggest reason for that is we have people in office who are not keeping up their pledge to uphold the Constitution. We've got that on a national level, right?
Yeah. When you take an oath to defend the Constitution from enemies, foreign and domestic, you got to take that seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah, absolutely. So, do you have any advice other than, obviously we've given a little bit of advice. I know folks out there are going to be, up in arms. I guess that, no pun intended. Folks are going to be up in arms about this. Do you have any advice for what we can actually do to get some correction here, or things that folks out there can do to help us further this? Because we've seen that there's lots of problems that are running through the Attorney General. And I keep telling people, like, we've got some laws in Florida that came on under Rick Scott, and they haven't been put into effect yet. So what I mean by that is they're laws, they're on the books, but the person who would start prosecuting people for that is the Attorney General. A lot of people don't know this. So if we have an Attorney General like this, they may choose to use those rules and start going after people and then putting people in jail for things that otherwise, we because people are not aware in Florida that there's a whole bunch of gun control laws. I talk to folks in Florida all the time, and they're like, what are you talking about? We don't have anything, right?
Yeah, red flag laws.
Yeah, we've got red flag laws. We've got age limits. You cannot. So, like we were talking about, this gentleman serving in the military, you can serve in the military, but in Florida, you cannot purchase any firearm until you're 21 years old. And at 18, you can be on your own.
Yeah, it's crazy. What I would say to people is, now is the time to get involved. You have to get off the bench. If you're not getting off the bench, you are being a detriment to the gun community. There's plenty of great organizations around the country, local and national. I'm not saying you have to join GOA, but if you want to join GOA, that would be great. NRA,
Right.
even.
Mm-hmm.
join them.
Yeah.
There might not be everyone's favorite right now, but they still have a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would say is look at local organizations too. Like here in Virginia, I am a member of the VCDL, which is our local gun rights group in Virginia. It's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest one in Virginia. In
Mm-hmm.
Florida, you have Florida Carry, which is a phenomenal organization. They do a lot of work in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, everything starts local.
Mm-hmm.
GOA can't really focus down on the state level too much.
Mm-hmm.
I do for Virginia because I'm the Virginia state director, and I work very closely with other groups like the VCDL in Virginia. I would say pick at least one national organization, join it, whether it's GOA, NRA, Firearms Policy Coalition, it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And pick one local organization to join.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then
And
do, yeah,
show
exactly.
up.
Yeah, show
Attend
up.
rallies,
Yeah.
attend meetings, write letters to the politicians, call them, put pressure on them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We have to do what we can. Like, I know everyone can't show up to everything. I definitely can't show up to everything. We've all got plans and things that we have to do. But I was talking to Antonia Okafor, who I believe you know, and she was here fighting for campus carry.
Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody, government needs no proof or evidence to prohibit a firearm purchase. 0. By Lee Williams on September 27, 2019. News, National. Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody has just proven that, like her predecessor Pam Bondi, she is no friend of the state's gun owners. Moody's position became crystal clear in her response to a show cause order in the case Leonardo Lynch versus Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Lynch is an active-duty sailor stationed in Florida who attempted to buy a handgun last year. FDLE informed the gun dealer that Lynch was prohibited from purchasing the weapon, and Lynch appealed the denial. New York State had an old NICS entry that showed Lynch, or someone with the same name, had been mentally committed, according to Sean Corona, founder and executive director of Florida Carry Incorporated. New York refused to release any documents related to the NICS entry, which Corona explained is not a disqualifier but more of a flag for further review. But FDLE took no action and said it does not have to even render a final decision in the case ever, so no one gets to go to court for judicial review of the denial. All their decisions are never final, Corona told me. If that's the extent of our right to purchase firearms in the state of Florida, then we have a constitutional crisis. Attorney General Moody needs to get her office under control. Neither Moody nor any member of her staff responded to calls and emails seeking comment for this story. The arguments spelled out in Moody's response are chilling, both for gun owners and anyone else who values personal liberties and freedoms. Here's a list of exactly what Moody is claiming in her response. The list was compiled by Florida Carry Incorporated. 1. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, FDLE, should not be required to produce any evidence or proof that an individual is a prohibited person prior to the denial of a constitutional right. 2. The court should accept FDLE's statement that a person is prohibited from purchasing firearms without any evidence to support FDLE's claim. 3. FDLE can allege that a person is prohibited from purchasing firearms and is not required to offer any evidence that the purchaser is prohibited. 4. FDLE has full discretion as to whether a purchase denial is final, and the courts have no authority to require FDLE to issue a final decision almost a year later. 5. If a purchaser does have a right to the entry of a final decision by FDLE through mandamus, the first DCA should exercise discretion and refuse to compel a final decision in this case because New York law prevents FDLE from obtaining proof of FDLE's claims. 6. Compelling FDLE to render a final decision and granting appellate review would force FDLE to give purchasers an approval when FDLE is unable to prove they are a prohibited person. 7. A purchaser prohibited by FDLE cannot require FDLE to render a final decision that would be subject to judicial review. 8. A purchaser FDLE claims is prohibited has no right to appellate judicial review in a Florida court of FDLE's decision. 9. A purchaser has an obligation to prove they are not a prohibited person even though FDLE has offered no evidence or documentation that the individual is prohibited. 10. A mental health record, that no evidence has been produced even exist, is a criminal history record. Despite a prior AG opinion regarding Florida mental health law that mental health issues should not be treated as criminal cases. 11. FDLE's statutory authority to create rules for review of criminal history records applies to records that are not criminal history records as defined by Florida law. 12. The specific authority under the Brady Act to bring an action against a denying agency does not apply to a purchaser seeking appellate review of an FDLE denial. 13. FDLE is not subject to the Florida Administrative Procedures Act, APA, when it denies a person the fundamental right to purchase a firearm. 14. A person seeking to purchase a firearm is similar to a criminal seeking to seal or expunge their record. 15. Because the legislature gave an express right to concealed weapon and firearm license, CWFL, applicants to seek review under the APA but did not give that express right to denied purchasers, the purchaser has no rights under the APA. Takeaways. I would like to give our new Attorney General the benefit of the doubt, but allowing a response like this to be filed with the court over her name is damning. It's indicative of either very poor staff work or a complete lack of respect for the Second Amendment, which Attorney General Moody took an oath to support and defend. I hope this case is resolved quickly. Mr. Lynch took an oath too, when he joined the Navy. The state of Florida should respect, if not honor, his oath by letting the sailor buy a pistol. It's the least we can do. Share.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.